We're joined by the AI and tech expert, Dan Södergren. Hi there, Dan.
Oh, hi there, Laura.
Hi. Right, so just set this out for us. What exactly was Elon Musk trying to achieve with this case against OpenAI?
Well, it's a great point, a great thinking point. What was he really trying to achieve here? It goes a little bit like a bit of a Game of Thrones kind of political moment. It's a little bit odd, but we've got to remember this is the fifth industrial revolution, and those that control AI kind of control the future. So a little bit like electricity or oil, it's going to be running things in the future, and therefore it's a big infrastructure play. But behind the scenes, really, Elon Musk was doing something a little bit odd because Sam Altman, the CEO, of course, of OpenAI and ChatGPT, he gave away, there's this whole technology moment for ChatGPT almost for free. About 95% of us don't actually pay for it, and it's got about 1 billion users. And I think that's pretty much irked Elon Musk, especially now Sam Altman's taking this to IPO for maybe $1 trillion or so. And so he brought this rather frivolous law case, or court case, should I say, to America. The reality is that just from a technicality point of view, because of the statute of limitations, I'm an AI expert, not a law expert, but even I know he couldn't have done this because it kind of gone over the time period that you're allowed in America. So it's more of a PR move, I think, by Elon Musk, or it's very much sour grapes because he's a bit cross.
Yeah, so was there ever a realistic path for Musk to win on this particular case? Was it always going to fall on procedural grounds like the statute of limitations?
Well, again, not a law expert, but I believe so. But I think obviously he was thinking, well, if I can do this now, and it's quite interesting the timing of this, because Elon's now partnered with another company, an AI company called Anthropic, which you might know is a large language model called Claude that it does, which is technically kind of better than ChatGPT on a load of fronts. And Anthropic was really going the other way with very safeguarded and kind of less hallucinations and it not being free and for enterprise. And Anthropic is now joining with Elon Musk and using Elon Musk data centers, which is a complete 180 by Elon Musk because he's actually dropped his old kind of aspirations to have this thing called XAI, and it cost him billions of pounds. In fact, people would even argue he bought Twitter and renamed it X just to power his AI machine. He's now working with Anthropic, and so it's kind of suspicious timing that suddenly he's working with Anthropic, and now he suddenly wants to do this law case against OpenAI. It's most probably more just like muddying the waters and kind of dirtying Sam's name before they can do anything like an IPO, because of course that's worth trillions of dollars, and if you can make investors a bit scared, then you kind of undercut one of your competitors, which of course is what Elon Musk sometimes does.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the IPO in just a minute because that is interesting. So that what you're basically saying is that, I mean, we know that Elon Musk is obviously an intelligent person. So is this about competition, about him establishing his wider position in AI, including those links to the rivals like Anthropic and XAI as well?
Well, I mean, Elon's known for, originally him and Sam were friends, right? But it's not the first time that he's turned on a co-partner or a friend in respect of him making more money. He's one of the richest people in the world. So, and he does this quite often in different companies. You'll see this happens again and again. So he's also a very passionate person, and whether you believe in his politics, his ideas, I personally don't massively, but he's a very passionate and very emotive person. And I think sometimes he does things based purely on those emotions. I don't think we could ever say he's not very bright because, of course, he's one of the richest people in the world. So we've got to look at it. But I think it's more like a chess game for him. He thought, wait a minute, what can I do to undermine OpenAI because I don't like them anymore? One of the best ways I can do it is to kind of create this kind of law case. There's also going to be a thing that I think this won't go away. I think he'll keep doing it with different things. But the reality is that this court case was pretty much instantly thrown out in less than 2 hours because it was pretty frivolous because the statute of limitations basically means he couldn't have done it anyway.
So OpenAI is talking about moving towards a more traditional profit-driven model and potentially an IPO. So explain to us, first of all, what an IPO is and also how important this is to the backdrop of this dispute.
Well, it's a huge thing because in reality, as I said before, not very many people pay for OpenAI and the use of the ChatGPT. Got to remember, if you're not buying a product online, you are the product online. So there's a danger in using free internet services, as we all know. That's how technology works because they're mining the data, etc., and they're going to monetize it at some point. But they'll need lots of money, so that's what they do an IPO, and they hand out their shares and they do all these different things because they need the cash to be almost reinvesting in what they're doing. They've invested almost millions upon millions and millions. It's hemorrhaging millions and millions and millions a day. Because, of course, it doesn't have a way of monetizing itself. Its plan is to become a monopoly IPO, sell everyone the shares, gets loads of more money behind it, and then it starts to monetize. And so if Elon Musk could stop that IPO or somehow kind of almost hamper its abilities, then of course that kind of hamstrings one of his competitions. And if you look on the other side, Anthropic has done the opposite. It's making a huge amount of money. In fact, Anthropic, the numbers are crazy. It's something like its annual run rate revenue rate was 10 million in 2022. It was up to $1 billion by 2025, and it's predicted to be 45 billion by the end of 2026. It makes its money through enterprises and people giving it money to help doing coding. And that enterprise move is a very clever one by Anthropic, and it's the one that ChatGPT didn't do. So ChatGPT now has to go to the market and say, look, we need loads more money. We're going to do an IPO so people can invest in us.
When we're dealing with somebody like Elon Musk who has huge financial resources, is this less about money when it comes to him and more about influence and timing?
Well, no, absolutely. You've seen through the veil there, of course. The money side of it isn't important to him at all. It's a drop in the ocean how much money he put into it originally. I think his point is a point of principle. He's not happy. But if it was the point of principle, he should have brought that up several years ago or 6 years ago or almost a decade ago. But he didn't. And so really it's this moment that he's got crossed by it. He knows he's rich and powerful, one of the most rich and powerful people in the world. He can do pretty much whatever he wants, he believes. But obviously on this occasion, the court said, well, actually, sir, it doesn't make a difference how rich you are. You can't do it this way because, of course, the time's already run out. So, right, it's a bit odd because, of course, he'll have hundreds of lawyers that surely would have known all this and would have told him. But obviously it didn't make any difference to him at all.
Yeah. In terms of industry-wide impact, so obviously we are now living in an age where AI is becoming a bigger part of our lives, a bigger part of, companies and people using it in their private life as well. So this fight over how AI companies should be structured, is this going to be something that moves on, and there's going to be now a discussion whether or not open not-for-profit ideals are up against commercial scale-ups, and this is just going to be the conversation that keeps coming and being made over and over again?
Well, I don't know if it'll. I mean, there's a much deeper point here, which is around things like open source. Like, should we really be giving all our data to these huge American companies that they can then make profit from it? And that's a really good point. And should we be using large language models rather than businesses? As I talk to businesses every day about this, we should be really looking at small language models and kind of having that kind of moment of data sovereignty. And the UK has to look at that, say to actual companies and organisations. I think it's a very dangerous thing that we're giving all of this information away to larger companies who remember all these things and build AI around it. And then we're wondering why it might affect us later on. It's actually a principal point around leadership. We should be investing in our own AI, but that's a kind of deeper point. Your other point about, is it realistic that you'd have a non-for-profit entity being able to do this? Well, only if it was backed by governments could it do so, which is why I keep saying this when I do my keynotes. I think that's a really big, important point, especially for the UK, but all of Europe. We've got to look at how do governments get involved in this, so it isn't just for profit for American companies, because they're mainly American companies. Obviously, the Chinese have got some amazing models as well, and so is Europe now. But the bigger names that everyone knows, of course, are American, and they are profit-driven organisations that are kind of almost out the scope of nation-states. They're kind of beyond our jurisdiction. So, yeah, I would love to be in a world where it could truly be non-for-profit, and I think that's what Elon Musk was saying. Was when he first joined, he thought it was non-for-profit. But I'd like to say, no offence to Elon Musk, but what of his companies are non-for-profit? I think most of them make a profit, and some of them IPO, and he's one of the richest men in the world. So it's a little bit is it to say the pot calling the kettle black? I think on that one.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Dan. Really appreciate your time this evening. AI and tech expert Dan Södergren there.